Hey everybody, it's Tony here, Ai2 Products, and today we are going to do an install video of the quick attach on a Generation 1 machine, specifically a BX 2200 with the 211 loader on it. So let's get into that and we'll go. Alright, so first of all, we got the quick attach. And when you get it unboxed and out of the box, this is basically what you're going to have. You got your pins in here. Excuse me. And all you'll really need, you may need more, but this is kind of your basics. Because I use standard pins or nuts and bolts on my stuff. Kubota uses metric, so I use a 3/8. These are a half-inch wrench, and they're 7/16 on these. So you'll need those to get those apart. You'll need, on this one, you'll need a pliers because they use cotter pins on these and not really cross bolts for the most part. So you don't really need wrenches to take the thing off. It's just more to put it back on again. And then you'll probably want a punch and like a hammer because in most cases, something's not going to agree with you and you're going to have to beat on it. So I shouldn't say beat on it, but sometimes you just can't get the bucket to lay perfectly level or something. You have to tap on some of the bolts because where I'm doing this now, the floor is kind of set to grade towards a floor drain, so it doesn't lay perfectly flat. But we got the tractor sitting here kind of in position ready to go, so we'll just kind of drop the bucket down. And I try to just get it laying as flat as I can on the ground here. So we'll push I like to start with the center pin. And on these, it's basically a pin that goes through. Let me get the pliers on here. And then there's just a cotter pin on the bottom of this one. I already popped this one out just to make sure everything would come apart without having to fight it too hard. But there'll just be a cotter pin on this. You just take that out, set it off to the side. And then we'll push this pin out. Hopefully, I might have to reposition some. There. I just get a little weight off. Then you'll definitely want to have some paper towels handy because you're going to be handling some greasy pins. There. So yeah, when this pin comes out, it's going to have goop and grease and crap on it, so I just kind of clean it off a little just so when you're handling it, you're not constantly getting goop all over your hands and everything else. Because on this, when you put the quick attach back on, as you can see here, there is a grease zerk in the end of that one right there. So this one will go back right in here when we put this back together. And now we'll take these pins out. Ooh, that's like right there on the. So you'll have two of these. You'll just have to obviously straighten out, pull these back out. And then we'll push the bucket pins out, which hopefully they're not too, well, we got a little pressure. Let me drop that down a little more. Oh, God, look at that. Came right out. Pro. That was a pro move. Usually does not happen that way. Usually you got to fight it. I bet the other side I'll have to fight because this side the floor is a little different shape. So these we'll want to clean the grease off. We'll just set that one to the side. We'll see what this one's like. Oh, good Lord. Yesterday when we were doing this, I actually shed blood for you guys because I had fought a pin out, and when I took it out, my finger hit something and took a big chunk out of it. So these, I'll try not to get too distracted with my stories. These, you want to clean the grease off completely because these are going to go back into the bucket when we're done here. And you'll understand why in a little bit. So now the bucket is loose. We can pull it forward like so. So then while you're before you shove the pins in, I'm just going to wipe this off a little bit, because otherwise you're going to have a greasy mess in here. And you want to keep this stuff pretty well clean and dry for the new pins. So wipe them off. That's where the paper towels come handy. You're going to have this kind of crap everywhere probably. And then we'll just kind of wipe these off here. As long as we're in here, we'll clean these off. We'll get the old grease off so you can pump new grease in there once you get it all back together. So now we'll go to the quick attach here. These are going to be, actually they're going to be just snugged up. I just spun them on by hand here for now, just for demonstration purposes. We'll take this pin out and we'll shove this one back into the bucket, just like so. And these painted ones, I'm finding out are if the paint gets a little thick on them, which tends to happen, it will give you some trouble going in there. And if that's the case, just sand some of the paint off. But I'm probably going to go back to zinc plated ones, because the painted ones just seem to, it's hard to get a consistent layer of paint so that we don't get too much buildup on them. We'll just use this pin and stick it back in there like so. So then all that does is just keep that thing from coming out of there. And then I've got this is the little cotter pin that was in there. So we'll just shove that. We'll shove her back in quick. So that one will go back in there like it was. Now these, let me show you quick here. See, the quick attach was originally made for the Generation 2 tractor, and it works on this one just fine, but you can see there's a pin length difference. Well, we'll go end for end. These are too short to go all the way across. They actually, if you put them in there, they won't span the whole distance. Because on the Generation 1 tractors, this mount is made narrower than the current ones are. Whatever the reason is, that's what they did. So this mount on the new ones is about, there's probably at least about 1/4 inch, if not a hair more, of extra space on the newer tractors. So I just tell everybody, use these pins again and just stick them right back in the way they were. You want to stick your cotter pin back in there. Right. I'll tap that back in on this one. Wait, where's that? Wait, this one. All right, that one had a roll pin in it. That's right. I took the roll pin out of that one, so we'll shove it back in there. There, that one goes right too. For some reason, this had a roll pin in it, and I think they lost it. So there, the bucket is basically done. You put it right back just like that, and you're done with the bucket. So we're going to fire the tractor up and lift up the boom. And I like just to get it up to about waist height. I mean, you can kind of do whatever works best for you, but it just makes it a little easier to do. Now we'll get ready to put the quick attach on, but first I'm just going to run a little, because who knows how well you've greased these or not. It just doesn't hurt to push a paper towel through there just to get rid of any excess, junk that might be in there. Any rot or little gravel or grit or debris that might be in there. So just kind of clean these out a little bit. Clean them out so they're nice and clean again. And then I'm going to take my grease gun and we'll put actually just a light coating of grease on these pins again. Before you stick them in, just put a coat of grease on them. Because once you get them in, you'll also grease them anyways, but this just helps. It's like you don't need a lot, just a nice coating of grease on there. So now we'll just kind of set the greasy gooey pins right there for a second. Now, grab the quick attach. Use your pants if you need to, because that's what I do. Mommy always told me not to do that, but obviously I never learned. So then we'll just get this started on both sides. There, we got that one in. You don't have to get it all the way through, just kind of get it started, because then this one will go right through nice and easy. And you got to kind of rotate these around till you, so you can line up your cross pin holes. Oh, I should have put those closer too. Then you can put your cross pin bolts into place. Got that one. And we'll do this one. Where are we at here? Sometimes you can just rotate. Ooh, there you go. Rotate that around until you find the hole. Do that one. And I just get these all in position first before I tighten everything down. And then the same thing with this bad boy. If you get all the dirty grease off, just pump and put a little, just a nice light coating of grease on here. It just helps them go together better. Because once you get it all in, then you'll pump more grease in the end of that thing. So now this, you probably have, depending on where your positioning is, you'll have to put that in place like so. I'll get my hands wiped off, because you're going to end up with grease kind of smeared everywhere unless you wipe your hands off. And then we'll get this pin. Oops, too far. Where is that? Rotate it around a little bit. There we go. There. And then we'll get the nut in there. It's kind of a pain to get that one in because it's right behind there, but there. So that's all started and in place. So that's really basically all it takes to put the quick attach on this unit. Say it works the same as the other ones as far as the Generation 2, which most of you guys have probably seen the Gen 2 video. The only really difference is your pin configuration, reusing the factory pins back on the lower one. So these pins don't have a grease groove in them, where these, you can see there is a slight grease groove in there, but if you pump, that's why I put a little air grease on them to begin with, and then actually once you get it all to on, pump some more grease in there till it kind of oozes out the sides like you normally would do. And you just keep some grease in there, because it's obviously not a high RPM, thing when it comes to that. As far as it just rotates ever so slightly and slowly. But we'll tighten these nuts up here quick. But the install, I say, is pretty straightforward. It's more or less the same as the other one, just with the pins being kind of reversed a little bit. And like I say, on these pins, I'm going to go back to the zinc plated ones, but if you do get painted ones in the meantime, you may have to probably take some of the paint off there to make them pass through there, depending on how much buildup there is. But it's not a huge deal, I see, because you're gonna have grease all over everything anyways. So we can take these out of the way, put these up in the parking spots. And I'm gonna just shove something in that one pin, because that one's had a roll pin in it. We'll go to hook this thing up, and we'll see how it goes here. Now on these, because these mounts are narrower, they do fit pretty snug on these things. I'm just gonna point that out right away. So that is normal, because they say they were designed to work for the bigger one, or the newer machine. And at one point I had actually widened these things out to fill in that gap, and then I sent one out to a guy with these and it wouldn't work because it just smacked right into there, so I narrowed them back up again. So they do fit in there. They say they are just a little snug. And you might have to go over here and just kind of give her a little oomph. Say, because they do fit snug. And when I was hooking that up, just for people for getting used to picking these up, say this one, they're just a little snugger fitting in this area. So there's no rattle on these at all. But we'll drop these in here quick. But when you're hooking these up, because I get questions, it's like, so what should I do when I'm hooking these things up to make it a little easier? And this is really the first time I've ever done this on a Gen 1 machine. You want to hear something kind of silly? I think you can actually see the center hook better on this tractor than on the newer ones. The newer ones, when you're sitting down, you can't see that center hook at all. And what I typically do is, I just kind of stand up. But on this one, I could actually see it a little better. So I think the Gen 1 machine actually has a little better visibility of the bucket and the loader when you're hooking up to it. But I'll hook up to it. And the biggest thing is to get the center hook in place, get that engaged into that pin, and don't try to roll into it right away. Pick it up and get the bucket kind of hanging from that center pin. Then pick it up off the ground and then roll into it. Because then it just tends to roll in nice and neat. If you try to do it when it's on the ground, you end up half the time getting under the pins or just not hitting these pins in the right position as often as you'd like. But that doesn't matter what model you're in. If it's this machine or a Gen 2 or a Gen 3, that just seems to work the best when it comes to hooking these up. So it's just kind of a little tip for you guys. Like I tell everybody, once you get it on and you've used it a few times, you'll figure out kind of a system that works for you. So don't get too excited if it doesn't just bang right into place right away, because it doesn't always do that for me either. So sometimes it just goes into position, sometimes it doesn't. So for you guys with the Gen 1 machine and the Gen 2, these little features here, don't worry about it. That's only has to do with an 80 series machine, because I had that question here the other day. A guy got one.
The cutouts.
The cutouts, yeah. These are just a feature if you have an 80 series machine. So on a Gen 1 and a Gen 2, these don't get used. So if you're curious about that when you get one, that's the situation there. Of course, go back and tighten these pins up. I didn't tighten the bolt up on this one.
That real quick, that does make it convenient if you have a Gen 1 or Gen 2 machine and you don't have to worry about those cutouts. But if you ever do end up upgrading to...
Yes, if you say a couple years down the road, you decide, hey, I think I'm going to go to that new 2380 or 2680 or whatever the current model is. I can't imagine Kubota's going to change much on those now, because they just did a big upgrade here about 2 years ago. But this would go on a newer machine now. And I'd say we are the only ones out there that make a quick attach that fits every BX model ever made. This is a one quick attach and it fits every single one of them. So there are just a couple little nuances between the Gen 1 and we just did a video yesterday on the Gen 3 or the 80 series machine, and there's obviously a few extra hurdles on that one because of the kickstand mechanism. These are actually much simpler because you don't have to worry about the kickstand. It's all fixed into place, so that's not a big deal. That's basically all it takes to do one of these things. If you do buy one and you do run into some issues, don't worry about it. Just give me a call. We'll talk you through it, because sometimes, who knows, silly things happen. On these two, I've never noticed these, or I've never had anybody call back to say that the loader arms on these moved. The Gen 2 machines, I've seen it, and I think if you've watched my other videos, you've seen where I've talked about where these arms want to either splay in or splay out for whatever reason, just from when they were welded. but I've never had anybody call back, and that's been an issue on these. Plus, because on the Gen 1 loaders, there's actually more room in here than what the factory bucket had. So you can see we've got some extra space in here. So there is room for it to move and have some freeness. The center cylinder pretty much keeps everything in position. Once you do get it all back together, pump these things full of grease. And it probably wouldn't be a bad time just to go through and grease all your points on your load as long as you're doing those. Get everything filled with some nice clean grease again. And then, yeah, you're basically ready to go. And now you've got capability to run your factory bucket, go to pallet forks, rock bucket, whatever other accessory you'd want to go to or attachment you'd want to upgrade to. If you have any questions on this product or any other product that we make, feel free to give me a call at 320-331-1055. You can check us out on bxattachments.com. It's our website. Or email me at tony@bxattachments.com. And a lot of times that is the best way to get a hold of me, is to shoot me an email, because that way it sits there and I can see it more visibly. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up on the likes. Subscribe to our channel if you'd like. Well, if you want to see the latest and greatest Ai2 product videos, click that notification little bell at the bottom here at the bottom of the screen, so you get a little jingle every time we do something like that. And we're going to be doing a lot more videos of all the products, different things, not just product, but other like tech tip type things. We got a whole bunch of stuff kind of in the works right now. But yeah, if you have any other questions, shoot me an email, give me a call, and have a great day, and thanks for watching. That's like, when I got to restart, it just throws me all out of whack. It's like, damn it. Usually my first one is my best one. Then when I got to rehash it, it sucks. All right, get ready here. Okay. I'm just not even going to pay attention to the camera anymore. I'm just going to do my thing and not worry about where the camera's at. It takes me off. All right, I can do this. So, yes. Now I can just all screwed up. Here, we'll get it. We'll get it. Just keep going. We'll keep going. I'll get it here. So, hey, this is Tony here, Ai2. What? Well, don't start laughing. Should I do the Superman stance?
Okay, I'm not laughing.
Yeah, don't. If you laugh, then I'm gonna laugh.
Okay, go.
Well, now I get the freaking giggles. I can't help it. All kinds of good material for you now. All right. 1, 2, 3. Here we go.